culture. And so to be able to talk about issues of culture, you can never leave language out. And so we're able to detect where you're coming from based on the kind of language that you speak. And you see, language also has so many dimensions, meaning, pragmatics, and the rest. And you remember last week I discussed some of these issues with you. And I believe that we're able to discuss that integrating cultural norms in the linguistic forms of the target language. Of course, the target language that we talk about is English language. And the argument here is that even though you are teaching English language, you must also avert your mind to some of the crucial issues that we have in our local language. And so some of the proverbs that you may find in the target language or English language, you need to also address that in the local language or in the child's native language and see how they relate. And so most of the proverbs actually relate. But you see, there are certain issues or certain proverbs that you really need to address. Mhm. And because it doesn't really help our literacy development. And as you go along with the teaching, you need to let the children also appreciate some of these things. Because we say that once the in a local parlance, I believe that some of you are from different dialect, and but let me say that in Chi, once the elderly finishes taking his bath, it means that the water is finished. So it has a lot of repercussions or implications for literacy development. And that is why sometimes our students or our children become timid in classroom when something is going wrong or there is something wrong in the classroom, especially with the teacher. The students are there, cannot speak because they feel that once the teacher says it, it's final. But and that is what also brings about the issue of inequalities in the classroom, in a sense that there is that power play, absolute power that the teacher wills in the classroom. That whatever he says is final, he or she says is final. The student cannot even challenge the teacher in the classroom or whatever it is. We should be open and we should appreciate that as teachers as we are, we can also learn from unlearners. And just as I find myself here, there are so many ways that I also learn from you, especially from the experiences that we share. And so Proverbs, we should also draw the learner's attention to it. And I believe that you also spoke about the issue of role play that we find in the issue of culture. So students can act out a miscommunication that is based on cultural differences. For example, after learning about ways of addressing different groups of people in a target culture, is it such as people of the same age and older people, students could role play a situation in which an inappropriate greeting is used. You know that yeah, you can do that in the classroom as you are discussing. And don't forget that those of you who are quite conversant with the new curriculum, you see that there are issues of conversation, dialogue, and what have you, rightly embedded in the new curriculum, so far as English language is concerned. And once we are in language, we have that capacity, that prerogative to assist learners to be able to address some of these communication issues. You know that in a local setting, we say is even in greetings, it is quite wrong, okay, to be greeting an elderly person while walking. It doesn't happen that way. And so some of these things could be role played in the classroom for learners to appreciate and get to know the relevance of some of the issues that they are talking about in the classroom. So elsewhere, maybe they don't mind. Or maybe you are greeting and then using the left hand. In a setting that doesn't work. And then you can also greet while walking. So in a local setting, you need to stand and then greet the elderly. And then the elderly person would if there are questions that you want to ask. But quickly, before we proceed, let me ask your opinion on this one. Um, hmm, I know that it's something that has to do with our culture. But let me take your view on it. Okay. What's your take on the situation where a younger person, okay, in a communication with an elderly person, asks the elderly person how the elderly person is faring? What's your position on that? So you're talking to someone, and then you are the younger person. You ask the elderly, "How are you doing?" What's your position on that?
Doc.
Yes.
Doc.
Yes. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, the other time this issue came up in my school,
Mm-hmm.
but some of the so we built a certain consensus. Personally, what I do is when I
Mm-hmm.
go home and I meet my younger children or the daughters there. For our culture, say it is impolite in
Yeah.
the way to for the younger one to ask the elder person about his health or condition of health.
Okay.
But you go home or you go to school and you meet children in class. I think sometimes I do my by asking how are you. When I go home and the kids are there, I ask you how are you. I don't just say I don't greet. I just how are you by way of greeting. That's what I do. So you
Mm.
go home, yeah,
Mm.
you enter a place and you see a minor there or a younger person there. For me, I normally
Mm.
rather ask the person's condition. How are you? How is the house? How
Mm.
are you doing? To
Or
get to
when the little children ask you, the elderly,
ask me what?
when the younger ones ask you, this
In
elderly
English,
The
or the
issue
elderly,
is that
if the younger one
let me
asks the older
hello.
one,
yes.
Let me
Hello?
Please,
clarify,
I
and
think you
then
didn't
I
get the
think
question well. Please allow
hello.
Doc to explain the question now.
Hello, let me clarify. It's a very crucial cultural issue with respect to communication or language that I believe we need to find out how that can be addressed. Now, my position is that you are the younger person, okay? Must you ask an elderly person how the elderly person is faring? For instance, you meet an elderly person and then you ask, "Oh, how are you?" You understand the question. So, what's your take? And do you think, because it has a certain cultural background so far as our setting is concerned, and I now want to take your view on that. Christiana, can
Oh,
I
okay, I get it.
listen to you?
Doc,
Yeah,
Doc,
Christiana. Yes, go
Hello,
ahead,
Doc.
hello,
Christiana.
Doc. This is
Please,
Christina.
Christy, go ahead.
culturally, I think it's wrong for you to ask an elderly person how he or she is faring, because I think this case happened between my mother and my cousin, and my mother was very furious about it. That why should you be the kid? Why should you ask me what to sing?
Man,
Even yes. So they see it to be wrong for the small child to ask the adult child
So,
how he or she is faring.
so personally, what is your take on that?
Hello, doctor.
may I not say
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, doc, please. I'm Abnecha.
Abna,
I think
go ahead.
what my sister was saying, I just wanted to add a little thing to what she said.
Mm-hmm.
From my take, I think it is wrong for a younger person to ask the elderly how they are faring. They see
Mm.
it to be impolite.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So if you meet the elderly, you just greet and wait for them to ask you first before maybe you have
What if
anything to
they don't
say.
ask you? What if they don't
And
ask you
if they
first?
don't ask you, then you just leave it like that.
now the whole thing is how are you is framed to the elderly person. You don't ask how are you to
Excellent.
the elderly person, but you say wumpum et saying. You know, if you say wumpum et saying and I say wumpum et saying, you know, it doesn't really mean how are you. Saying how are you
yes,
looks quite
exactly.
awkward in a local parlance. But if you say wumpum
Hey.
saying, they take it to be a
Hello?
little lighter and they don't
Hello, Doc.
stress so much about being disrespectful. Thank you.
For me, I
Hello, Doc.
think there is nothing wrong
Hello?
to ask an elderly person that.
Hello,
No, there is
please.
nothing wrong
Hello,
with that.
hello.
But
Can
then the
you
truth
can
is
Sure,
that
there is nothing wrong
in
with
our
it.
African
It's not wrong, but
All
hello,
need
our
we
culture
see
made it.
it to be
Our
wrong.
culture made it that
hello?
one
way.
after the other, please.
Respectfully,
But the
please.
culture of the people.
Let's observe the modalities in communication.
Doc,
If you all want to talk, definitely we cannot hear each other. So please, can I moderate? if you want to talk, just show by hand. I'll definitely call you. Now we have heard from Christina, but when you are talking, I really want to know your take on it. Whether you think it is something. Yes, in our culture, we believe we have that view that if a younger person, you don't just. The reason I'm even asking this is that I remember I was teaching in class, and one of my students told me that I said, if I should ask you, because they found it quite difficult to ask me how I was faring or something of that sort. So when I said, for me, I don't have any problem with that, they said, "Ah, but they also have one lecturer. Anytime they ask or they are communicating with him, either on phone or face to face, and the lecturer asks them how they are faring, and they also try to also ask how he is also faring. The lecturer will not even respond. We do not mind them. And so they feel like it is something that it's quite awkward, just as some of you are saying. But what I want us to have is that, what's your position? Do you think it is something that, because culture is dynamic, is something we could change going forward? How do we instruct our learners going forward? Because some of these things they should learn growing up. And we are talking about culture in respect of English language and in respect of the teaching of the language, where you would be inherently positioned and you'll be required to teach them the right thing. So let's have that engagement. All right. And we're all here. Let's share experiences. So
Yes, no.
I cannot take, please,
Sometimes
you
somebody will
don't
say
call.
boko there.
Once I see your hand, I will call you, okay? And then if you want to talk, you can let me see your hand. Florence, let me take your view. I'll come to Infinite, I'll come to Matthew, and then Samsung and Messi. So
Okay,
you all have your bike.
you.
My
Florence.
view, thank you. My view,
Florence, go
yes,
ahead. Let's
thank
hear
God.
you. Mhm,
My view on this is, I
mhm,
think it depends on the person you are talking to and then the cultural background. We can't clearly tell our students to ask the elderly people how they are
mhm,
faring. I remember Professor Christine, she's a lecturer at Institute UCC.
mhm.
When we were having a master, she came to class one day and we said, Professor, how are you? She said, I don't know, I don't feel all right when students ask me how am I.
Okay.
She being a professor, maybe you might know her.
Mhm,
So depending on the one you are speaking to and the cultural background of the person, we can't directly say it's right to me or it's wrong.
mhm,
Even though culture is dynamic, sometimes things should be able to change. But
mhm,
I wouldn't say it's wrong. I wouldn't say it's
mhm,
right. Depending on whom you are speaking to, the cultural background of the person, and then how the person feel that statement, how are you? It's not even about how you say it,
mhm,
whether to say to me or how I want to say or boko. I remember my sister was talking to someone, he just asked boko.
mhm,
Boko saying the person got angry and just cut off the phone. Indirectly, she was asking the person how he is faring.
mhm.
Like boko, yeah, boko. Just the mere boko, the person got angry and then cut off the phone. So
Okay.
looking at the person whom you are speaking to, the cultural background, how the person feels about that statement, then you can
Mm.
either say it's right or wrong.
Thank you
That
very much.
you can't say it's
And
right or
that
wrong.
that
Thank
is
you.
okay, Florence. Thank you. I think this is being recorded, and I'll take your views. I'll take the recorded discussion, and then I will take your views seriously and consider it. Now, Infinite,
Doc,
let's also
no,
hear
Doc.
from you.
I wanted to say that how can a young person meet an old person? Then you tell him boko there. Boko there saying. So you cannot greet an elderly person boko there. It's so
Mhm.
annoying. Our tradition, it means that you do not even show respect to the person. So if you meet
Okay.
an elderly person, you have to stand. Even in the northern region, when you meet an elderly person, you squat and greet the person. So you
Mhm.
you cannot stand on your feet and greet an elderly
Mhm.
person. That is
Mhm.
uncultured. But you can only
Mhm.
ask someone what to say when it is maybe your father or your mother or your elderly brother who is sick. Then you
Mhm.
knew of his sickness. You
Mhm.
went to the room or where the person is lying.
Mhm.
Then you ask of another what to say. That one is different. It has
Mhm.
to do with maybe the person is not feeling well, you are aware.
Mhm.
So you want to
Mhm.
find out how he's faring now. But in other cases, when you go to town and you meet an elderly person, you cannot ask the person, say, what to say. It is not your age mate. So what to say could be in context when the person is sick, you are aware, you go there and greet the person and ask what to say. But you cannot meet somebody in town knowing very well that is an elderly person, then you ask the person what to say. No, you should be able to stand, greet the person, give the necessary respect to the person. Especially when somebody even beating me. What if you annoy me the new language Bokodie? Call you and say Bokodie. What's the meaning of Bokodie? It's not the best. We need to guide our students and any other person that we should respect our culture. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you too for sharing your opinion on it. So Matthew, can we also listen to you quickly?
Yes, on a personal level, generally, it is wrong in our culture for a younger person to ask an older person how the person is faring. But on a personal level, I think it is okay for a younger person to ask me if I'm okay, how I'm faring.
All right.
And I'm kind of used to it. And sometimes when I go to class and my learners ask me how I am, depending on how I'm feeling, I tell them I'm okay or I'm not so fine. So on a personal level, I think it is okay, and it's something that I try to encourage my learners to do. Thank you.
All right, thank you too. Samsung. Okay, we have heard from Samsung. Okay.
You called
Go ahead.
Infinix and you did not
Infinix. Go ahead. But can't you change the name?
Okay.
Change the Infinix to
So
your name.
would you ever call me in your
My
class?
name. Okay,
Please
so
speaking. When Infinix is done, please you go ahead and then you speak, okay? So that I don't miss you. So
my opinion is that as for me, when I go to class, when I greet them, there were some of them, not all. Madam, how are you? I also respond, oh, I'm fine. As you can see, I'm fine. Then they will say, some of them will say, okay, we thank God. Then we all laugh. But in some cases, if you greet an elderly person just like that, it's not quite well. For me, when I see my senior house mistress or when I see my domestic, I'll just greet her. And sometimes I look at the face before I continue. If she's okay, because sometimes you see the person now, you can see that one I'll just greet and pass by. But if say no so then I start, Madam, how are you? No one was just, oh, I'm fine, as you can see. Then we all laugh and we are good to go. But me sure when him me who say, and then I also go. That's what I always do. So that's my opinion. So it depends on how you relate or the relationship between you and the person that you are greeting. That's my opinion. Thank you.
All right. So the one, thank you very much. We appreciate your opinion.
Dog, my hand is up.
The one who wanted to speak, I think there was a lady. Please, can you go ahead and make your submission? Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so with in my opinion, I think the elderly command a lot of respect. I wouldn't say they deserve. Yes, they deserve respect as elderly people. But these days, it's like the elderly, they command a lot of respect. So I, for one, before I ask you how you are doing as an elderly person, I start with the word please. Please, how are you doing? So I have done that to a lot of elderly people, and I think I am comfortable with that. So there is this woman in my neighborhood, and anytime you even greet her, ma, good morning, and you don't add ma'am pacho, good morning, that day you will regret greeting her. She will insult you and she will just blast you just because you said
ma good morning and not ma pacho good morning. So if you say ma pacho good morning, ma pacho what to say, you are good to go. So I think meeting the elderly without please doesn't show respect. And also asking them how you are doing without please doesn't show respect, because there are lots of elderly people asked how they are doing with please and have been good on that side. So I don't see anything wrong with asking the elderly how you are doing, but it depends on how you do it, the manner, how you speak. Yes.
Okay,
That's
thank you
my
very
opinion.
much.
Hello, sir.
We appreciate your
Hello, sir.
concern.
Please, can I ask a
Joel,
question? Please.
yeah, we will give you the opportunity to ask. But let me take about 2 or 3 and then we'll come to your question. Yes, Joel, quickly. Joel, go ahead.
Okay, Doc, thank you very much for the opportunity, Doc. With regards to my take on the issue of a younger person greeting an elderly person, to me, I understand why our existing culture and say it's wrong for a young person to ask an elderly person, how are you? Because the whole idea is that we assume an elderly person is old enough to check on the younger one, not the younger one checking on the elderly person. So the best thing is the elderly person that are asking the younger person, how are you? Just like we always do in class, but at times some classrooms divide us. You see students say, we are quite well, thank you, sir, and you. To me, I think it's wrong. It's the teacher who's supposed to ask them how they are doing, then they will only respond they are doing well or they are doing quite well. Thank you, sir.
All right. Now, I think let's make some progress, okay? I'm sorry, the others will definitely come to you. But someone
Hello,
wanted to
sir.
ask a question.
Yes.
Let me take your question and then we proceed.
Okay.
Because otherwise we can't make progress, but we need to also continue. So
Okay.
Hilda, let me take your question briefly and then we'll continue from there. Right, go
So,
ahead.
sir, on the issue of the how are you, I would like to ask, when you are greeting, do you genuinely want to know how the person is faring or just a formality? And if the person says, oh, I'm
Fantastic.
not fine, what are you going to do about it? So do you really want to know how the person is doing? Can you be of help? Like,
It's just like sometimes my friend will ask me, how are you doing? I said, me honya kura untime muame. Anyway, it's a very fantastic point that you have reached, and so to speak, the reason for asking is just a mere formality and just a mere exchange of pleasantries. And that is why some people, because it's a mere formality and it's a mere exchange of pleasantries. That's why some elderly people see it to be quite awkward asking him or her, because he feels that you are not at his level or you are not his or her co-equal. And so how do you exchange that kind of pleasantries with him or her? So that's why people see it to be quite awkward. My position is that, fine, I've heard from almost all of you the kind of explanation that you give to it. Some saying you shouldn't even try asking the elderly person, how are you? Some also of the opinion that if you add please to it, it will change the situation. But and also others added that it depends on the relationship existing between you and the elderly person. But for the sake of our classroom instruction, let's listen carefully. Please mute your microphones, please. Please mute your microphones. For the sake of classroom instruction, it is quite instructive to note that we should not encourage our students or children to go about asking elderly people how they are faring, because that is not acceptable in our culture. But even if the child will do that, it depends on the established relationship existing between that elderly person and the child. And even that one, somebody also added, and let me also reiterate, Even that, it will depend on the personality of that person that you are dealing with. And so let our children know it is something they shouldn't do. I would encourage them. If it is, somebody also added, I love the suggestions, and then I love the points that you raised, because somebody also added that if it is a genuine concern about finding out, probably the person is on the sick bed, or the person has fallen sick, and you really want to find out whether the person is okay now, I think that is quite genuine. And so if you ask, the person will not feel bad. But just exchange of that pleasantry where you are not the person's friend or whatever it is, you don't have to encourage your student or your children to do that, because it can break relationship existing between the child and the elderly person. It can. It can. Because if you consistently do that, the person will lose interest in having or engaging in a certain kind of communication with you. So let us encourage them not to, even if they are very close to the person. It should even be guided. They should not do that arbitrarily, and that would help them to show respect and politeness. Even sometimes, if you even add a please, for me, please is a way of showing politeness, but it doesn't change the fact that you really want to exchange pleasantries or establish a certain kind of formality with that person. So that is basically for our instruction purposes what we need to do. And I need to make that categorically clear for all of us to have in mind that it is not good asking the elderly person how. But when it is in the classroom, even in the classroom, it depends on the level. At the basic school level, where you really want to condescend and have a certain kind of established relationship with the children, they do it. And some teachers don't really have problem with that. Oh, they come, how are you doing? Then the children also ask, and you? I think it is something that has already been established. And no, but when we are dealing with the person on a personal relationship levels, then we need to be careful with that. Even for me, trust me, I must be frank. Sometimes I tell people I don't have a problem with that, but sometimes when people under me, where I don't have that kind of cordial relationship with, when they're asking me how I'm faring, sometimes I feel a bit bad, and I sometimes wouldn't want to respond. Oh yes, it happens. So it is something that we can suggest to our learners not to continuously do, okay, with the elderly. I hope it's clear, right? And I appreciate all your
A
experiences
quick one
that you
here.
shared
So please, a quick
and
one.
your submissions. Thank you very much. Now, yes, we can also
Dog, a quick
use
one.
culture
In the
capsules and
background, they are
the
really
likes, okay?
disturbing us.
Some
Dog,
artifacts that we have. Oh, please. Hello.
I said a quick
Yeah,
one
please
here.
mute in the
Oh,
background. The noise is really disturbing us.
the noise
It's
is
so
not
bad.
helping.
So bad.
Oh,
If we all
Mr.
turn
Bernard
our
Atto,
microphones
please
on, how
mute
would
your microphone. Mr. Bernard,
who is
please
that?
mute your microphone.
all right. Thank you. All right.
The noise
think the
is too
Oh,
much.
person joined.
I don't know if
oh,
the person is in.
anyway,
That's
let's
Mr.
proceed.
Bernard's phone.
So you also spoke about culture capsules using certain artifacts in the target, in the local setting to assist the learners appreciate their culture is also very, very important. Some examples have been given there for you to take note of, right? And the issue of literature, we need to also appreciate the kind of literature we have. So you can draw on our literary text to also help the children to appreciate. And even history, sometimes people argue that we don't even learn our history, and we are learning about American history, British history, and whatever. In fact, we have our own history. So literature, we need to also get them well integrated in our literature. Then films, we can also appreciate that to help them learn language very well, because films are one of the issues that we can utilize to help learners learn a particular language and the culture of the people. Very, very, very instrumental. Very extremely instrumental. Because it is through that that the world actually got to control most African, or let me say the Western world got to control most of the African countries through films, changing our way of dressing through films, changing our lifestyle, the way we eat or the food we eat, whatever we do, everything is done through movies or films. So that is also very, very important. Also coaching them to appreciate our type of movies. Then you have certain issues that we need to address. And basically, all that you need to know, don't worry so much about it. All that I want to tell you is that have in mind, because your program, you are not going to do literacy. It is a new course that we have introduced in the new program, issues of literacy. Because as a language teacher, don't position your mind to the fact that literacy is all about reading and writing, which has traditionally engulfed a discussion about literacy. Currently, literacy goes beyond the aspect of reading and writing. And you see, basically, when we talk about reading and writing, we are basically dealing with transferable skills such as language and structure, grammar, punctuation, spelling, and the rest. That's all we know it is about literacy. But literacy it goes beyond just issues about language and structure, introduction, paragraphing, and the rest. Literacy goes beyond that. And we talk about distinctive types of literacy, and it is emerging and it is unexhaustive. We can't finish it, and it keeps on coming. There are so many issues. So once you're a language teacher, have in mind that literacy encompasses a lot. And so anytime people talk about literacy, you can put them to right. But our discussion is not centered on literacy, but it is something that we need to say in person. So for you to have that idea, that appreciation, that literacy transcends beyond just reading and writing, that most teachers of English language have in mind or have taken to as being literacy. So that is that about it, and we have given you some examples of it. The what is listed there is not exhaustive. There are other forms of literacy. Digital literacy is coming. We talk about computer literacy. We talk about health literacy. We talk about transliteracy. We talk about translanguaging, and a lot of issues that we can actually talk about. Right. Now, having said that, let's quickly look at scaffolding. I pray that next week will be our final week of engagement. That will make up the 4 weeks of engagement. So next week we'll try and finish, but I'll also try as much as possible to add certain few issues to what we are learning, right? All right. So I will try and do that. But I pray that God willing, we'll meet on Tuesday, right? And then Thursday. So we need to finish what we have on the slides. Oh, we will finish as is. We don't have much issues there. Yeah. So we'll finish everything on Tuesday. I'll try and finish it on Tuesday, okay? And then on Thursday, I would prepare some other what do you call it? Slides for you on certain issues like determinant of curriculum implementation, right? We'll also have to add that key component or element of curriculum. So we will discuss that briefly on Thursday, and then we wish you well. But I also find time and discuss certain issues with you in terms of your quiz questions and then your examination questions as well. So don't bruise your head so much and don't worry so much. Everything will be fine. All right. So let's quickly deal with scaffolding. Now, already we have established that we have three forms of scaffolding: teacher student scaffolding, material scaffolding, and peer-to-peer scaffolding. Quite succinctly, all that you need to know with respect to scaffolding is that teacher to student scaffolding is that it is the kind of support provided by teachers to help students to reach the level of independence. So what this means is that we are interested in the explanations teachers provide to students in the classroom, the commentaries teachers give while they are teaching, the expositions teachers provide to students. If you're explaining what the noun is in the classroom, you are providing the teacher scaffolding in the classroom. The argument you make, your choice of words that you are picking up from. So you see, when you use a certain kind of expression in the classroom, the learners are also picking from you. And trust me, I remember when we were in class, we learned a lot from our teachers. Sometimes we even try to speak the way they do. All right. So they are also picking things from us. So once you explain in that respect and they are able to appreciate the things that you are talking about, definitely that is what we mean by teacher scaffolding. It is coming from you, the teacher. So their understanding of concept is actually emanating from the explanation, from the exposition, from the argument, from the examples, from the illustrations provided by the teacher. That's why I refer to it as teacher-student scaffolding. Then we have the material scaffolding that requires students to read material. And don't forget, there should be the provision of well-edited and certified reading and learning resources to aid learners' comprehension and concept. You remember when we were speaking about the official or recommended curriculum, I mentioned to you that when it comes to materials, resources, textbooks, and what have you, we need to ensure that learners are made to read the kind of texts that are recommended and certified by state authorities. So they shouldn't be allowed to read junk text, any kind of material, because probably they are young. But let me tell you this. When you are grown up, you have developed, you have a certain level of independence. You see, when we talk about scaffolding, it's a process of bringing the child to a certain level of independence. Okay, but when you are an adult, you have reached a certain kind of or level of independence. You're autonomous, you're on your own. So there are certain decisions that you can take or you can make. For instance, if you are reading a text and the text is replete with a lot of grammatical infelicities, as a teacher of English language, given the level that you've gotten to and the kind of exposure and experiences you've had, there is the likelihood that you will be able to detect these mistakes or grammatical errors in the test. As compared to a student at the primary school, JHS, or senior high school, some may, but to what level, to what percentage? And that is why we need to guide them. That's why teachers, we are facilitators. We serve as guides. We guide the student. All right. And so when it comes to material scaffolding, the emphasis must be made that they should pay attention to well edited. So you see, I remember there was certain when I was in Wesley Girls, definitely the books that they read, we check. And if you can't just bring any book there and sell, no, we will take the books, go through it, read it thoroughly, and then come back and give you the feedback whether we should go ahead and give the books to them or not. So you are not, it's unlike some other schools, anybody at all can walk to the school and then show one to the headmistress or headmaster, and then all of a sudden, oh, go and sell. It can never happen in Wesley Girls where I was teaching some years back. You can't do that. You see, and that helps the learners, because at the end of the day, certain tests, they feel that, oh, once it is coming from somebody, okay, it is a test, they are likely to take everything that is captured in that test as the truth. That's correct, without even asking further questions. They have not gotten the way they have what we call critical reading skills. They have not developed to that level as compared to the teacher or the grown-up. And that is why it is incumbent that we assist them to focus on well-edited and certified reading and learning resources, and not just any kind of books. Because some people just want their money and they just write anything and push it there and they make their money. They don't care the kind of harm that is going to be caused to the student. They don't mind. And so as teachers, we need to be mindful the kind of materials, the kind of resources that our learners are using. I remember when I was in school, some friends of let me say a certain guy in the school started reading what they call the 6 and 7 book of Moses. And you see, he wasn't mature. And so it landed, he nearly got mad. He took the intervention of some of the teachers in the school who were very prayerful and stuff like that to assist that child to come out of it. Otherwise, he'd have gotten mad, you know. So you see, the test doesn't necessarily mean that you don't have to read. So for you, if I'm advising you right now, I will tell you to read everything. Anything you get, read it. And you see, it doesn't necessarily mean that once you see it has been printed or whatever it is, and you read it is the truth. No, but you have been developed. You are mature. You ask questions to seek to know the underlying assumptions of the text and the test writer. All these things we do in critical reading, but for the student, they are not there yet. And so please, let's guide them in terms of the material scaffolding. So the point is that when the test is well edited and certified, any information they pick from the test that helps them to understand a certain concept, it may not necessarily coming from the teacher, from the book, that can be referred to as material scaffolding. So newspapers, literacy journals, songs, audios, videos, and others. Then we can refer to that as material scaffolding or resources. Then we have peer-to-peer scaffolding. Over here, we have more capable and advanced peers. That one, you can take it in schools. Some are better than others. When we teach, others get the concept before others are able to reach a certain level of independence. So some of the students may reach a certain height, and so where they've gotten to, they will be able to assist others who are down to also rise to the height that they've gotten to. So when a peer, a colleague helps advance the frontiers of knowledge to their fellow colleague or student, then there is what we call peer-to-peer scaffolding. It is a colleague. It is another student helping his fellow student to understand a concept. Maybe the concept may be captured in books, may be given to the teacher by the teacher, but the student may not have understood that concept. So when the student helps the colleague to understand, that's where we are talking about peer-to-peer scaffolding. And that is why it is a requirement in teaching that you focus on differentiated learning, where you pay attention to what we call it group studies, collaborative learning. That is extremely important because they come from different backgrounds and they have different learning abilities. And so you need to help create the opportunity or the avenue for some students to help the others to be able to appreciate. But let me make this point that sometimes you, the teacher, there is the possibility that you teach a certain concept they will not understand. They will go and read, they will not understand. But it will take the intervention of their own colleague to explain and they get the concept. It is there. It is in education. You can't take it out. And so in teaching, you pay particular attention to some of these issues, group work and stuff like that. And that's the relevance of peer-to-peer scaffolding. When it comes to methods of teaching English language, you see there is a connection between the curriculum and what we practice in the classroom. So we'll be addressing some of these issues in methods of teaching English language. I think that brings us to the end of the issue of scaffolding and the rest. If you have any question, you can ask before we proceed to inclusion. Inclusion. That's another important topic or issue that we need to address. Please, do you have any question?
Yes,
Or
please.
any contribution? Please go ahead and ask.
Oh, okay. So when you were talking about the sixth and seventh book of Moses, I didn't get that part well. I'm asking because personally, I like to read anything I come across, not just anything per se, but some things that people keep talking about. Let's say there's this sixth and seventh book of Moses you are talking about. I have heard of it. I want to know what is it about. I'm not
Please, I want to
reading
answer this
to
question.
practice it. I'm not reading to practice it, but I'm reading out of curiosity. I just want to know what is it.
Madam.
And by the grace of God, through this book, this course, Introduction to the Old Testament, last time the lecturer talked about some books which is part of the pseudepigrapha, and she made mention that the sixth and seventh book of Moses is part. So the moment she mentioned it, I was like, oh, I have it in my room. Once she has mentioned it, I have not read it yet because of this switch program. I don't confuse myself with reading that and then the switch books or the, how do you call them, the slides I'm reading. So after 1 year later, I'll try and find what is in that book. So what you were talking about concerning to the sixth and seventh, please, I want to know.
Doc, please, I want to answer that question. Can I?
Yes, answer.
Good.
Go ahead.
Now, doctor was talking about material scaffolding. It says providing well-edited and certified reading materials for your learner. At your age, you can read everything of yours that you think you can read. But for the learner at his age or her age, the learner doesn't need those materials. So material scaffolding is talking about providing your learner with a well-edited and certified reading materials that is at a level or at this level.
Okay. I'm not satisfied with this answer.
And she wanted to know more. She wanted to know more about the books.
Yeah, not pertaining to the book per se, but is it that when I also read, will something happen to me because I have not researched on it before coming to read? I don't want to use it for anything. Out of curiosity, I want to know.
My dear, please, I want to help you a bit. I think
Is it
Doc
the
used that
content you want to
as
know
an
or
example.
what?
Yes.
He used that as an example. If we are to delve into that, I think it will take our time. So please, maybe you can see some people and then they will help you answer. Okay.
You please go ahead.
The
You can go
emphasis
and
on choose the right materials for your kids. You as an adult, you can read any material that you want. But even with that, you need to be circumspect so that you don't get yourself into trouble.
Okay, that's
Okay, so they have really or appropriately responded to your question.
Yes.
And let me also add that the framers of the curriculum or the developers of the curriculum, indeed, it is not just only one person. They plan, they reason, they think and reflect on some of these issues. And that is why even they argue that as part of the official curriculum, at the basic school level through to senior high school level, you don't have the right to do politics over there. There is a reason to that, because there is a certain kind of age range and there is a certain level of maturity. You see, so over there, it is not appropriate. Nobody would encourage any student at that level to go and read that kind of nobody. And you see, that is why I strongly believe that if we control, okay, our media space, it will help. Because on social media, you see people talking about a whole lot of things. The student or some of the children go and practice, but you see, they are immature. That's the problem. That's the issue. You see, they don't know how to go about it, and at the end of the day, it lands them into trouble. But at this stage, and I even mentioned it when I was giving that exposition, that at this level, I'll ask you to read everything. Forget about whatever it is. Read. But you see, your brother or your colleague here also instructed that you need to be very circumspect with certain texts that you yourself, you even read, especially spiritual books. Extremely important. If you feel that spiritual book is talking about things that are highly in terms of the understanding above you, you need to get a help, either peer-to-peer scaffolding or pastor to what do you call it? Congregate scaffolding. That one should be there. Okay. So you need to be circumspect with some of these things. Indeed, you need to read everything, but you need to also be guided in some of the things that you read. All right. You know, these pastors nowadays, if you are not careful, they will bathe you. Yeah, they will bathe you. If you're a woman, by the time you realize, no more gyro, that. Oh, gyro, wow, if you said in ABC. You have to be careful. You see, the ladies, they are suffering. Oh, a lot of them are suffering, but they can't say everything. They are suffering in the hands of some of the pastors. Eh? Why didn't I become a pastor, a prophet, so to speak?
It's not too late.
Because when you
Hey, doc.
then I will change profession because we need to also start.
That is
No,
knowledge.
you can be a teacher and a pastor at the same time. There are reverend fathers who are
Prophet
also
doctor.
teachers.
Prophet doctor.
Me, I want a prophet where I can bathe some people. Anyway, so let's proceed to talk about inclusion. And the definition that has been provided here is that it is the recognition of student individual differences, such as their cultural background, that is one, physiological makeup, and we'll explain everything, and the ability levels. Okay. When you look at their cultural backgrounds, you see, when you are teaching, understand that every student comes from different background, what they believe in, what they consider, the things they do, you need to be mindful of that. So sometimes you need to be guided. Even some of the words, your choice of words or your expressions and what have you, you need to be mindful of that. Okay, because of the background that they are coming from. When you take physiological makeup, you look at them. Some of them, I think, as part of your questions, either today or tomorrow, I'll forward it. There was a question like that. Okay, if you should see a student, right, who seem to have um or a hearing problem or seem to have a hearing problem or whatever it is, you need to arrange the class in such a way that you see the inclusion is all about and the SGD goals, I think goal 4 or whatever, no child is left behind. Okay, I stand to be corrected in terms of the specific goal number, right? No child is left behind. That is extremely essential, that you arrange the classroom in such a way that that child not be left behind. So you move the child to the front seat so that the child can see. If the child has a certain kind of a problem with the eyes and can't read from the back, the child must come forward. Okay, sometimes if the child is short, okay, like somebody who was a president in Ghana is no more the president of Ghana. I've not mentioned anybody's name. You need to bring that child to sit in front of the class. You understand? So that the child will not be disadvantaged. So the issue of inclusion is that no child should be disadvantaged in your class. In terms of ability levels too, sometimes you need to take your time, bring the discussion down to their level, and make sure that each and every one, you see, sometimes the point needs to be made that not everybody would understand the concept once you teach, not everybody, but at least majority of them should be able to understand. And so you use certain strategies to ensure that those who are weak should be able to also catch up with the concept that you're providing, will be able to understand the concept. Don't say that once the brilliant student in the classroom has understood, then we need to move on. Please don't do that. Otherwise, you leave the others. You will not include them in the ability to be able to appreciate the concept. Students also learn in different ways. They have different ability levels. They have different learning styles. Some are audiovisual, some are visual learners, some are audio learners. You see, there are some students, once they hear it, it's enough for them. It's the end. Once you speak and they hear that this is it, period. There are others, unless you say it and then you show, they are the audiovisual. You say it, not only visual, you say it, so they must see and then you must also say it. So we call them audiovisual learners. Some are visual learners. Put it there, they will picture it, and that's the end. They will capture everything in mind. That's them, they will tell you. But there are others, if you don't say it and don't provide the evidence, forget it. If you don't get it, forget about it. That's for them. Okay. So that's why you'll be doing teaching practice. But let me make this point that you know what I'm doing here, I'm showing the slides. Now you are seeing something. So as a teacher of language or whatever it is, under no circumstance must you teach without providing essential information on the board. Never. Whether you are doing reading comprehension or whatever it is that you are doing, you need to provide certain information on the board for others. Extremely important. Even when you are projecting, you still must provide some information on the board for them. Others, you need to add certain materials to it before they'll be able to understand. Others are even tactile learners. They must have a feel of it. And that's why sometimes we engage them in role play. You must have a feel of it. They must be in the act to be able to understand what you're saying. So you see, adopt varied methods to address the learning abilities of various learners that you have in your class. That's what you mean by inclusivity. That's what you mean by inclusivity. Some are brilliant. We call them high flyers. They are sharks. You don't need to leave them behind. I remember when we were taught special education, we were taught that some students are sharks. And I remember quite clearly that the professor then indicated to us that we have only 0.5%. Is it in the world or in Ghana? Those we call sharks. They are extremely brilliant students. Sometimes we even jump them because in class one, their colleagues are nowhere near them. Because sometimes when you are teaching, they will be disturbing. So they feel like they know the information. And once they know the information, they are still teaching it. They feel you are even disturbing them. So they also disturb the other student in the class. So what you need to do is that you give them difficult tasks, extra tasks to engage them. Otherwise, you are also leaving that child behind. That's the issue. So we need to address some of these issues from all fronts, from all walks of life, in terms of the approaches, the strategies, the methods that we adopt. Right. Then inclusion is important for 3 reasons. Help the teacher to vary his or teaching methods. And we have spoken about that. If you are doing discussion, some would understand, others will not. So you vary to lecture method, explain, they want to hear from you. Sometimes you need to do role play, a number of methods to ensure that they understand. Sometimes they need to touch. If it is about fertilization you are talking about, they must touch for them to understand what is meant by fertilization. You understand? It is important. Then help the teacher to address the needs of all the students in the class. And I've spoken about this. Okay, sometimes some of the students are sharp, some are less endowed. They are below average. So their needs will be different. The issue you're talking about, that shark, that high flyer, he knows it already. So he doesn't, for that child may not even need it. And so he'll be disturbing. When you give the work, the child does it quickly, submits, and then start disturbing. So if you focus on inclusivity, differentiation, definitely you will be addressing the child's need by giving him or her a certain kind of difficult task that will seek to engage him. It's maybe they need. And helps all the learners to take of classroom activities so that they are not left behind. If they are short, they are brought forward so they can see the board, they can see what is going on. Okay. If they can hear, they come and sit in front, they can hear. So once you focus on inclusivity, all of them will be part of the classroom discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, God willing, next week, Tuesday, we will start talking about ways of ensuring inclusion in the classroom. It is 8:31. If you didn't go to Infante Pim, that's your own problem. I didn't attend Infante Pim, but they are winning back to back. Right?
Congratulations to them.
Yeah, congratulations to them. Sure. But I pray that one day, Ghana, our education system will change and will begin to develop. And it is not about power square, whatever, but to use power square to help people, to assist in the developmental agenda. That's my prayer, that a president will come and start developing, just as Kwame Nkrumah wanted to do, focus on science, so that we have scientists who can produce a number of things to assist us in our development. It's time. I can't take any question from you. We will do that, God willing, next week. If you have any question, you can ask it, God willing, next week, and we will address your questions. On this note, I want to thank you so much for your cooperation, comportment, participation, the experiences that you've shared with us. Indeed, I was a bit late. Somebody sought to remind me. I'm grateful to all of you. Continue to do that, and we continue to share knowledge and help each other to expand the frontiers of knowledge. I appreciate you. Thank you. God bless you. Until we meet next week, it's bye-bye. Enjoy your evening. And those of you who are ladies,
Bye,
don't
sir. God
stay
bless
on
you
top.
too, sir.
Bye, sir.
Always try and be under. Ladies, you are born to be under, not on top. That's my advice for you.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Please, the top three is
Lady,
very
take the advice.
fine.
Oh.
The top is very fine. The top is fine.
Kate.
Eh.
We cannot relate.
Auntie Kate. Some of
Doc,
us are young.
Please,
please, the
the
slides.
slides, make it
Doc, please, the
available
slides.
for us.
Auntie Kate.
Auntie
If you
Auntie,
can
The
put
top is
everything
fine.
together.
Thank you.
Face to face.
Please, those who have
Dog,
the
if you can
slides,
hear
please
me.
post it on the platform for us.
He's gone.
Dog,
We
if
need a
you
He's gone.
can
He's
you hear
gone.
me.
dog is gone.
Hello, it's gone.
Oh, okay.
Please, what do ladies do on top? Please, I want to know. What
They are
they are
still
saying something.
recording.
Ladies, go.
They are still recording.
Can we get a hard copy of the slides?
Is
Hello,
Go and
Constance.
make your own hard copy,
On the
please.
platform, go then.
You can print it out, okay?
Please, which platform